Hello everyone, and thank you for joining XROM podcast. Do kindly subscribe, support and share because we need your help to grow India's AR/VR ecosystem. And we cannot do this without your help, right? So today I have with us Adhvith Dhuddu. He's the founder CEO of Alive Now, a creative digital tech studio. They create interactive content and have built close to 400 AR/VR experiences. Besides being the founder of Alive Now, he's also an active early seed stage investor. So we spoke about impact of COVID-19 on immersive tech industry. We spoke about augmented reality because that's what they largely focus on. We spoke about the experiences that they have built, the value that they have added onto the brands and the consumers, and all in all, general about India's AR/VR ecosystem. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and yes, please kindly subscribe and support and share because we need your help to grow India's AR/VR ecosystem. Thank you.
Hey Eddie, so first of all, thanks a lot for doing this. I think before we get into Alive Now, I just want to give you a shout out. You've been doing a really good job evangelizing the AR, VR, MR, XR, and I think any other R's that will come, you will be at the forefront of evangelizing. Just given the network that you've built and the passion that you have, right? I mean, I've had a few interactions with you, and your passion is just amazing for the stuff that you're doing. Juggling all these different things that you're doing, the event, the podcast, the magazine, all of that. So. Big congrats to you, and thanks for doing this. So Alive Now, I'll just give you a quick background, when we started and what we're doing now, because it's, a lot has changed. I graduated from the US and I came back here in about 2009.
Right.
We were one of the first pure service social media agencies, that plain vanilla social media agencies that started operations in about late 2009.
Right.
About 5 years into that, the first 4-5 years, we had an amazing journey, a lot of great brands that we worked with. About 5 years into that, I think around 2014 or 2015 is when we realized that the normal social media digital marketing is becoming a plain vanilla service. It's pretty commoditized, and too many people are trying to do the same thing. So then we said, what can we do? That's when we, explored and we said that why don't we get into doing some very interesting stuff in immersive at the intersection of technology and marketing. Right? Then we started building on Twitter, building on LinkedIn, building on all these different stacks, building on these platforms. And one thing led to another, and we now are a pure, kind of a tech company. But a lot of people still call us an agency just because that was our origins. We're even many times we're known as an agency, but we don't operate as an agency, right? So we don't have any brands that we work with on retainer or anything. So with this marketing tech journey, basically what happened is, we have our own product called newsfeeds smart apps that's into branded games, and we also got into augmented reality and virtual reality. And more specifically AR and VR in the marketing, advertising, and the branding industry. Right. And that's what we do now. And we're slowly branching out to more of the AR and VR stuff as well. So that's a brief overview of where we are. We were fortunate enough, given that we had an early mover's advantage and we were doing a lot of interesting innovative work. We were fortunate enough to become official partners with Facebook and Instagram. As one of their AR partners globally to work with brands. So that's that.
I also have a background in the advertising field. So I've been servicing the advertising agencies, production house since the last 20 years. So I have an audio studio, I have a video studio basically. So I produce turnkey content for the ad agencies over here. So yes, I mean, somehow I feel that the 2D medium is going to die out, making way for the 3D world where, people will start interacting with content, rather than being restricted to just a passive medium, which is, what we are doing at this point in time. So do you see that AR, VR being the future of immersive advertising? And if you see that, what's the timeline that you're looking at?
Look, I think you hit the nail on the head. I see a lot of opportunity, a lot of, I think this year is a bit of an inflection point, actually. Given there's a lot of factors that are converging to kind of to help this to happen, right? So one is, of course, the whole COVID-19 situation that has happened. More and more brands are now trying to, ask themselves, with people sitting at homes, how do we engage with them, right? And one of the really good ways to engage with people when they're sitting at home is augmented reality, and in a few cases virtual reality, because obviously VR is restricted by you need to have the hardware with you, but AR, you don't have that restriction. So there's a couple of things happening, right, which are converging to help all this. So the first thing is AR was never taken seriously, according to me, even though AR has been around for, I think, at least about 8-9 years. I think AR was never taken seriously, and rightly so, by many brands and brand managers and senior people in marketing, because it was very, very hard to reach scale in AR pre the Snapchat lenses and Facebook filters and Instagram filters era. Before that, for somebody to experience an augmented reality, to consume an augmented reality experience, they were unfortunately, or that time fortunately, forced to download an app, and that itself was a huge kind of a user journey breaker. Now, one of the biggest things that has happened is all these social platforms, started with Snapchat, which then Facebook and Instagram have basically allowed and have evolved their platform to allow these really amazing, incredible augmented reality experiences that brands can create. And the reason why brands and the marketing and digital folks are interested is because when you create something in a Facebook or an Instagram or Snapchat AR, the scale you can reach is amazing, and there is no need to download an app and all of that. So that's the first thing. The second thing that has happened is the penetration of good quality smartphones with good processor speed, and people, the number of smartphones who can actually process these complex augmented reality filters and all of this, that's also at scale. So these two things have really, really helped. Now, the third factor, this is a big thing, which has really helped, is if you think of the history of advertising and marketing, especially I'm talking about in the digital and on web and on mobile, right? It has always been about two-dimensional scrolling, swiping, clicking, tapping, and all of that. Now, it's for the first time, thanks to AR, you're getting to, you're getting users to consume and interact with content using their hands, their face, their eyes, their mouth. And, you can't get more immersive, or you can't get more engaging than that, right? So I think a confluence of these three factors, has helped, with brands and marketing folks at senior levels and digital folks at senior levels to start taking AR very seriously. Now, VR, I think, is obviously a very different ballgame. Now, the other thing you need to think about VR is different markets and different regions are at a different maturity level, right? So in the US, penetration of VR with the number of Oculus Rift Go and Quest headsets that they've sold, and the HTC Vives that they have, is totally different from how many people have access to an Oculus Rift or a Go at home, right? So VR, if you think about it, I think in India, it's more at an enterprise level, and maybe more at an event level or a experiential level at booths or at auto expos and stuff like that. So I don't think it's going to be anytime soon that VR experiences can reach scale, especially for the marketing and advertising industry. But in India, what I am seeing is the VR enthusiasts, in fact, whoever has the VR devices, has the access to VR devices. I think there's a lot of people playing games in VR, both built in India and built overseas. I think there's a lot of that happening as well.
Lovely. So yes, I completely double that. That at this point in time, because of the problem with the hardware at this point in time, VR is going to take time, But so I started. I got into immersive tech because of virtual reality. We built our own virtual reality 16 camera rig back in 2016, when Google was building their the Odyssey rig, right? So yes, I mean, I am a proponent of virtual reality, and I believe that's going to be the, like, I mean, it's going to take some time, but I think that's going to be a very transformational technology. But I think even augmented reality is a transformational technology, and augmented reality, rightfully, like you said, is adding value right now because we already have the devices. You don't need to
Exactly.
be looking for a device and say that, okay, if I do an experience, you need to buy a hardware worth so much,
Yes.
maybe like a computer and stuff like that. So yes, rightfully, completely agreed that at this point in time, AR is the place. I mean, if you're looking at immediate solutions, products, I mean, building experiences, then AR is the space to go. But tell me, I mean, at this point in time, I mean, the adoption is still a little slow, like, right? I mean, I've been doing my bit to kind of convince the investor space, the startup space, the marketeers, the ad agencies. So what, according to you, we should be doing to push drive the ecosystem? At least get the brand guys, the marketing heads to come and understand and say, "Okay, oh, look at this building an experience through AR can really add value, and it's going to be interactive." What, according to you, we should do to engage the ad agencies and the marketeers?
That's a very, very good question, and it's actually a very tough question. And I'll try and answer it this way, right? Even though with all these different platforms like Lens Studio and Spark AR, and I think TikTok will be launching its own AR studio to build AR filters, is accessible to all, and they've tried to make it easy for people to use. I think what is happening because of that is, I mean, for a lack of a better word, the AR ecosystem is getting, polluted with a lot of low quality augmented reality, a lot of low quality AR, experiences that are built at little to no cost. And when brand managers and marketers, and especially when agencies with little to no tech knowledge try to do things like that, the first time that a brand manager looks at something, and they're shown the moon, saying that we can do this and we can do that, and then when they finally see something, it's not a great experience. It's not as what was promised. Now that immediately turns them off, and they get into that cycle of, okay, this is not what it actually looks like, and what it actually feels like. So I think a couple of things need to happen, right? So the first thing I think that needs to happen is, at mid and senior levels in brands and marketing, whether it's at an agency side or at a brand side, I think people need to understand and accept that if you want to build a good AR experience, there needs to be, mentally accept the fact that it is going to cost quite a bit of money, right? So, uh, and if you do that, then automatically the final result will be much better. But if you expect stuff for 1/5 or 1/6 of what it actually costs, that's what you're going to get. So I think the first thing is there has to be a mindset change in what exactly people, brands and marketers, and both on the brand and the agency side, can be done on AR. So I think the first and the most important thing is the mindset change. I think the second thing that needs to happen is, from these big social platforms itself, they need to maybe, over 6 months or 1 year, do programs with a lot of the big brands and marketers, talking about AR, what you can do in AR, what you can expect in AR, and how you can engage with AR, right? That is that. Now, another very important thing to kind of keep in mind is, if you look at AR, again, whether you like it or not, especially in the last 12 to 18 months, what has happened is the focus has been all on the AR in social apps, so Snap, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. But actually, augmented reality, if you ask me, kind of falls under three pillars. So pillar number one is augmented reality in social apps, so Snapchat lenses, Instagram, and Facebook filters. Pillar number two is web AR. Now, web AR is picking up quite a bit again, for some of those factors that I mentioned early on, and especially web AR. Another big factor is that, like how Snapchat and Facebook have built the Spark AR platform to democratize AR filter creation on social platforms. In the last 12 to 18 months, you've had some very good platforms like Zapper and 8Wall and all of these platforms that have democratized web AR tech and web AR creation. So that again is helping brands and agencies to launch web AR experiences at scale. So that's the second pillar, web AR. Now the third pillar, which I think is going to pick up later this year and maybe in 2021, is in-app AR. So in-app AR is your Flipkarts of the world, your Mintras of the world, your Amazons of the world, and even your small, e-commerce players, retail players who have apps will realize that having interesting and good augmented reality experience built into their own app has a lot of value add. It helps retain people in the app. It helps, there's a value add. People can try out products. There's a lot of interesting things that you can do. So this third pillar, I think, has not yet been explored. And that, I think, there's going to be a lot of interest, and a lot of brands will start doing in-app AR as well.
Lovely. So can you just run me through a couple of use cases to excite the people who are listening, at least the marketeers or the agencies who are listening? Can you run them through the jobs that you have done, the value that's been added to the brands and the consumers?
Sure. So, in Facebook and Instagram AR, I think one of the most exciting campaigns that we did was when Wagoner launched their new model in about late 2019. There was a full page Times of India ad. And we said, just scan this QR code and you can actually have the 3D of the car standing in your driveway or standing on the road. And, this was a Facebook filter where users can just scan, and then they, place the car on a flat surface. They can turn around the car. And the beauty of this was it was extremely simple user journey. No need to download any app. You just scan and it launches, right? So that was an experience that was very, very nice. We did something very interesting for Swiggy about 3-4 months ago for their campaign. We helped them become one of the first brands in India to use. Facebook launched a new ad unit called AR Ads, which is an ad unit specifically for AR that is in the mobile newsfeed of Facebook. So we did an AR game for Swiggy for their campaign, and they were one of the first to use that AR ads to launch. For Dubai Expo 2020, we did something interesting on Instagram AR. So this is the stuff that we've done on, look, in the last 2 years, we've built, I think, close to 400 AR experiences for brands, globally. So these are just a few that are, off the top of my head, right? And in terms of in-app AR, I think there's some great use cases that, brands that are selling products like your Flipkart can say, just flip to the back camera and place that product on a flat surface and explore it. Flipkart or a Myntra or a MyGlam that sells lipsticks, where in-app AR, or they can make them go to a social AR and say, try out lipsticks and try out this makeup and buy. So that, I think, adds a lot of value, because it's, at the end of the day, it's also driving commerce to you.
I'm extremely excited to hear that you have built somewhere around 400 AR experiences. That's so very cool. So when you said that, there are a lot of people who have, like, at least these small production houses who are building these low quality AR experiences, and they are actually in some ways destroying the market. I wish my listeners who are listening to this conversation gets in touch with Adhvith, because I think he's doing a brilliant job. And like always, I always leave behind the details, your contact. So anybody who wants to build some really quality AR experiences, please get in touch with Adhvith. So Adhvith, tell me, for the last 21 plus days, everybody is like stuck at home, right? So this remote conversation, remote work, remote healthcare, remote education, all of these remote thing is being pushed up in the forefront, right? Virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, all of these technologies has the capabilities of doing that. So what are your views? Do you think COVID-19 would somehow be that force of nature which would drive these technologies forward?
I hope so, and I do think so also. I can tell you one thing from from a personal experience is that we were one of the first teams. We just built a VR game and launched it on the global Oculus store about 2 months ago. And totally accidentally, I think we got the timing right because we were not expecting the amount of downloads that we got on that game, and it was purely because a lot of people in the US and UK, obviously about 60 to 65% of the downloads have come from the North America and European region. And everybody's sitting at home, and that has given a huge boost to VR. So I think in the VR point of view, especially gaming companies who are looking to kind of see where is my next revenue stream, or what can I do different. I think they should seriously start thinking about building games for the VR, for the Oculus store, and for HTC Vive as well. It's a bit of a tough mountain to climb because the amount of work and effort involved is maybe 4 times more than building a mobile app or a mobile app game. But so are the return on investment, and so are the revenues that you can generate. So that, I think, is for VR. And so that is for consumer VR. Now for enterprise VR, this whole work from home situation and remote working, I think it's a huge boost. So some platforms and tools like HoloLens, where you from remote you can solve problems, you can identify what's wrong and fix stuff, and you have someone sitting in Bangalore and someone sitting in the US, and both of them wear the same device and they're looking at the same thing, and they can go through that. Same for training, right? So people who've joined newly, they maybe instead of flying down and meeting, it could be a virtual meeting. So there's I think at an enterprise level, this particular situation is definitely going to get people in senior levels to start thinking about how can they use VR efficiently, effectively to do stuff faster. That's for sure. Now AR is going to definitely help as well, especially in the marketing and advertising industry. Now AR outside of the marketing and advertising industry, I think maybe in the gaming industry a little bit, but that's what I see happening. But this is definitely a push. Now, Eddie, I think one thing that you need to know, and generally everybody needs to know, is anytime there is a downturn in the economy, one of the first few things that start getting cut is marketing budgets, advertising budgets. Again, whether you like it or not, right? Travel, so all kinds of cost cutting happens. And we're about 3 to 4 weeks into this lockdown, and we're already hearing of a lot of these large agencies, and even the small agencies are forced to lay off people, sending them on furloughs, and a lot of these long-term contracts, retainers being cut, the media spends going down. There was a joke on LinkedIn. Somebody posted that, see the weight of the Times of India paper from 3 months ago to now, the weight of the paper itself has come down by 50%. So that automatically means that, media advertising industry is going to take a hit, right? So we have to look at spend in AR, VR, immersive tech, interactive tech, from that point of view also. That because the sector itself is going to take a little bit of a hit, this also might take a hit, but people are going to start looking at, instead of doing 6 or 8 or 10 campaigns, what 2 campaigns can I do that have the most amount of impact, and maybe one of them becomes an augmented reality experience that people are going to start talking about.
Lovely. So yes, you mentioned that. I mean, the downturn is obviously going to lead to budget cuts, layoffs, media spend cut down. But you know what, the 2008 downturn created millionaires because they saw the opportunity, because adversity always has this thing, it creates opportunities also, right?
Totally agree with you.
If you reinvent those models, you can see if you have a foresight, you can actually look ahead and say, oh, these are the models. Like if you see right now, you're saying the media spends are going to go down, but if you see on the alternate side, there is content consumption has really gone up. Yeah. Your streaming has gone up. So there obviously there's all those opportunities are there. Now, if these ad agencies, if these media companies, whatever, I mean, relook or figure out ways to reinvent themselves, I feel that there's an opportunity over here, to this thing. You have also been an investor. I mean, though you have invested not in the immersive tech space, more in the food space, but if as an investor, do you see this as an opportunity to kind of invest into the immersive tech space and push that ecosystem?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head, and I'll tell you a very interesting fact. This was a study I was reading from one of the VC firms, one of the US VC firms. They did a very simple study, and they said they removed sector, they removed who was the investor, who was the company, removed everything, and they said the average return on investment when they invested during the 2008-9 period versus when they invested during 2012 or 13 or 15. So they did 2-3 comparisons, right? So one, they said all investments made during 2001-2, right after the tech bubble burst. And then the next set of investment that they made right after the financial crisis in 8 and 9. Those companies gave the best compounded annual growth rate, or CAGR, best ROI, and irrespective of sector, irrespective of company. And then you put 2 and 2 together, it makes a lot of sense, because the money that you invest when somebody is just coming out of a downturn, it's like the investor kind of gets more bang for their buck, right? So they get better valuations, the same money is doing more work, which automatically means 3 or 5 years from now that company is much more valuable, versus when you invest in a bubble, or maybe not a bubble, when the economy and everyone is doing well at a 2016 or 17 or 18, you probably are going to get on average lower returns. So I think probably not for the next 3 to 6 months, because it's very, very tough to predict what the future holds and what is going to happen. I think there's a lot of people doing a lot of predictions, but frankly, my opinion is nobody knows. Nobody knows how we're going to come out of this, and everyone can claim to be a pro and give their predictions. But frankly, I don't think anybody knows, because there is no precedent, right? So this is such a different and a unique situation. So I think wait and watch for maybe 6 months or 6 to 8 months. But I think late 2020 and early 2021 would be an amazing time to invest in immersive tech companies. You're right. So I've done a couple of investments. One is obviously a very large food chain. We were early investors. One is a rental furniture company based in Bangalore with operations in 2-3 cities, and a logistics tech company. Now, I would love to invest in immersive tech. It's just that in India, so because I look at mostly companies in India, and I do angel size, mid to large size investments in India. Unfortunately, I haven't come across really, really good companies in India with a sole focus on immersive tech, and whether it's on the software side or whether it's on the hardware side. I have seen a few proposals, part of the Mumbai Angel Network. So I've seen a couple of proposals, but I know where I can say I have some idea of the global standards. Right? I know some of the companies based in UK and US and Australia, and how they operate and what they're at. Unfortunately, I could not identify. And even if you look at in India, whatever investments have happened in this space, immersive tech, AR, VR, I don't think anyone can say with authority any company or companies have come out with flying colors, right? I might be wrong. You probably are at a better position to, you may correct me, but I think no company that anybody has invested in the AR, VR space has come out with some great flying colors or been acquired or, grown at 6x or 8x or 10x. That's my point of view, but totally open to looking at investing. And I think I'll tell you one area. If there's people who are listening and who are thinking of doing a startup in the next 6 to 8 months, I will tell you one area that is completely ripe to explode, where there is a lot of demand but the supply is less. And India as a geographic region is very well positioned, is building high quality VR games to deploy across the world. Your cost of design, cost of 3D, cost of development, cost of all of the stuff in India is 1/5 or 1/4 versus when you compare to the US and the UK. And you do not have top quality VR studios building really good quality VR games that can compete with global standard VR games on the Oculus Store. And VR games on the Oculus Store are sold at an average of between $15 to $25 per game, which is almost 10 to 12 times your mobile app store per game revenue, right? So I think if you have someone or a team who can really focus on building amazing VR games, global standards, I think that's a great team or company to invest in. And if there's people who are doing that, I mean, please reach out to me. I would love to look at it as well.
Lovely. So Adhvith, completely bang on right when you spoke about, I mean, the AR VR startups in India. Most of them are definitely not investor ready. Some of them who have been invested obviously are going to take time to get acquired or whatever. But you know what? I think that's the reason for that. I guess it's not just in India. I think it's globally. I think global also. I mean, only just there are few companies who have like actually gone ahead. I mean, even if they invested, they are like, okay, there is actually. I mean, they go on to another seed days. But the ecosystem is so in a nascent stage for it to grow. I think we all need to come together, build a community, and we do have some great talent over here. We do have some great developers, startups who are doing some really cool things. But the ecosystem is not there. Just for, I mean, I'll just there's this. I'm not going to take names, but there's this connect of mine who's building hardware, right? And I think they're doing a brilliant job. The hardware what they're building is really excellent. But maybe I feel that they're a little early onto the ecosystem. But maybe this COVID-19 could just be that force of nature, like I mentioned, which could drive the conversation of people needing to have those hardwares. So
absolutely.
So
Eddie, I'll tell you one thing. You hit the nail on the head, and I don't think we can ask for anyone better than you to be evangelizing and leading that community and creating an ecosystem. So I'm being very frank, right? Not just because we're doing this podcast. I haven't seen anyone in the country with a passion like you and with the network that you've built evangelizing AR, VR, and MR. I haven't seen anyone, right? So I mean, there's people who are who have their own kind of vested interests pushing different agendas. But looking at the work that you've done, and you're bringing to the fore people from all from you're bringing them from the agency side, from the brand side, from the enterprise side, from journalists, from experts, from both from the development side, from the design side, from creative tech. So I think you are doing a great job, and I think I think it's called the Immersion Fest, right? So that is a great initiative, and I think last year was your second edition or a third edition?
The first edition, which
first edition.
Yeah, 600 people coming for the event.
So look at that, man. That itself is a great success, and I think a lot of people heard about that Immersion Fest, and later on they were like, oh, I didn't know about this. If I knew, I would be there. So I think there were a lot of people looking forward to the next Immersion Fest, and I think that itself is a start of as you said, we got to build that ecosystem. The ecosystem is in a very nascent stage, and for all you know, in the next fest that you do, you can have a section only for people in the AR, VR who are startups who want to pitch, and you can have investors do like a Shark Tank style pitch session as one of the events in your fest.
Completely. So, in fact, for the first edition, we had actually planned that out. We actually had planned the pitch thing. We had reached out to a couple of players who to ask them to kind of like do it, but most of them backed out. So maybe I was too early into the ecosystem. Yes, because what I realized was that, I mean, you have to build an ecosystem. If the ecosystem is there, business will happen. If there's no ecosystem, nobody is gonna gain, right? So yes, I mean, let me just go back to web AR, right? Web AR, social AR, in-app AR. Web AR, it's in a nascent stage, I mean, so what are your views on that? When do you think it's going to mature and when it's going to really start adding value?
I think web AR is slowly coming of age. I think it's going to take another 6 to 12 months. But I think, again, thanks to some of these platforms like 8Wall and Zapper, they are what I would like to say democratizing the creation process, right? Because they've built these engines that that can run these web AR experiences even on medium phones, even with decent internet speeds and all that. So I think as the quality of phones become better, maybe the emergence of 5G might even improve speeds a bit more. Maybe web AR becomes a bit more famous by then. But I think people are already starting to see a value in web AR, and there is interest in web AR. But yes, in India, I have not seen a lot of interest because we work with brands overseas as well. A lot of interest in web AR from Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Probably in the next 6 to 8 months, I think web AR will really pick up. Again, right, it goes back to all that's needed is a few mind-blowing, incredible campaigns in web AR, and everyone's going to be like, wow, who did this? Or how do we do this? And then people are going to start trying, and people will, slowly start using web AR. But I think web AR is at a stage where AR filters were probably a year and a half or 2 years ago. So in the next, I think 12 to 18 months, I think there's going to be a bit of an explosion of web AR related campaigns, web AR related interactions, and content created on web AR.
Lovely. Yeah. So yes, you rightfully agreed. 5G, I think, is going to come and drive the entire ecosystem forward. So do you think this is still, I mean, yes, it's a great device for AR, but do you think it's also maybe, just an okay device? Maybe you need glasses, something which like I'm wearing, something which could converge your phone and your computer into one single wearable device. Do you see that as the future of AR? And what is the future of Alive now?
You hit the nail on the head with the glasses. Totally agree with you. And the reason I'm saying this is because you don't have some small companies or some small players thinking about glasses. You have the 3 largest tech organizations, which is Facebook is looking at this seriously, Apple is looking at it seriously, and Google is looking at it seriously, right? So when you have these 3 large companies looking at this seriously, and it's one or the other is going to come out with it, and then the others are going to follow. The scale is massive, right? So when the scale is massive, and automatically you're going to have people on the tech side and your developer community and all of them starting to build experiences on glasses. So I mean, it's going to go through the normal cycle, right? So there's going to be excitement. A lot of people are going to try and build something, and then if that particular device, the glasses, if adoption is great, if people can use it without feeling that it is, an obstructionist device, without feeling that it is naturally an extension of me, right? The phone is literally become an extension of your hand or extension of your body. Same thing with the glasses, right? So the glasses come out with all of these in mind. I think there is a possibility of that, becoming the next wave of how, when when the iPhone was introduced and the App Store. So you probably will have an App Store for the eyes. So all of that is I think going to happen, but I think we have a long way to go for that. So I don't see any of these companies releasing any of these AR glasses, at least for the next 12 to 18 months. And given the whole COVID situation and the global economic downturn, that's also going to push people's plans. Even though they're big companies and they have massive cash reserves, I think they're going to push that a little bit to focus on the core of their business.
Right.
So coming to Alive now, I think we are at a very, very good space. Thankfully, I'm so happy that we're not, like a typical agency. Otherwise, we would have really suffered, because I know I have friends, I know colleagues who work in different agency, and they do not, the future does not look very, very bright for them. Given that we work on a pure project basis, given that brands are paying us for only what we do, and given that there's really good quality, immersive, interesting, different, eye-catching things that we do, uh, that's what brands are going to start looking for more and more, right? 5 years ago, every single agency that we were competing with, every single agency that we used to compete with, they are our clients now. I name an agency that we used to compete with, they work with us now, right? So I'm glad we did that pivot. It's worked out very well. So going forward, I think like I said, we have about 4 or 5 pillars that we kind of operate. So the first pillar is augmented reality, which we've pretty much mastered the AR in social. So your filters on Snap and FB and Instagram. Your second pillar is web AR. So we're working with already some of these platforms and building a few web AR experiences. And then in-app AR. So in-app AR, we're working with some of the large brands in India to experiment and see what in-app AR is going to work. So that's our first pillar. Our second pillar is gaming, right? So we already have 2 products. One product is called Newsfeed Smart Apps. Now that is essentially we build branded games, hyper casual, bite-sized games that people can play, quick to play, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and you win coupons and all kinds of stuff. So it's very highly engaging. Brands really like it. The second solution we have that we launched just about 3 months ago is something called Swipe Up Games. Now, the thought behind Swipe Up Games was very simple. Stories is the new feed. There is more content that brands are creating for stories, and there is more time that users are spending on stories. So we built a solution where specifically for Facebook stories and Instagram stories, where you watch a story, you swipe up and a nice game loads in the app and you play, and all kinds of stuff happens. So that has worked out well. We've done 4 campaigns, great return on investment for the brands. They want to do more of that. So under games, the next thing that we have is augmented reality games itself. So whether it's social or filters or web AR, looking at augmented reality games. Now, another one under gaming is in-app games. Like how you have in-app AR, there's in-app games. So we're building that as well, where I think many people now will realize that on a Flipkart or a Paytm, there's a gaming section. So these large companies have teams where they can build a gaming section. There are many small companies who have apps who we feel with a gaming section inside an app will increase the time spent, will increase engagement. You play a game, earn something, then redeem it by buying something in the app. So there's a lot of things that we can do there. So that's our gaming pillar that we're looking at. So there's a lot of work that we're doing there as well. And of course, we do a little bit of work with chatbots. So that's going to continue. We do a lot of work on interactive videos. So basically, whether you have an existing video or you're shooting a video, we have tech that we've built that you can add a layer on the video. So you can add a commerce layer on the video. You can add a storytelling layer, like Bandersnatch style. It stops, you say, okay, what happens next? So that. So basically anything and everything at the intersection of marketing and technology, very interesting stuff, cool stuff. And then of course the VR bit, we've realized that there's a huge potential there. So we are thinking of building our own original 2-3 VR games that we might launch sometime this year. And I think there's good potential to, revenue generating potential there as well. And I think a lot of the game studios in India should start looking at VR games very seriously, even though they'll be competing with us. But I think that's not I think it's not a red ocean, it's a blue ocean, lot of opportunity.
Lovely, superb. So thank you, Adhvith, for being part of XROM podcast. Really appreciate you giving time. So I think whatever you're doing, I think you are completely on the right track. And I guess the agencies, if you guys are listening, please take heed, because you need to change with the time. Gone are the days, where we have standard TV commercials and your digital films. Things are changing. Things are going interactive. Adhvith was mentioning. That's what he's building. So take heed. Otherwise, you'll get lost. So Adhvith, really, that was a pleasure talking to you. Any last words to our listeners?
Not really. I think these are tough times, but everyone is going to come out stronger. I think India as a country and the people of India are very, very hardworking. They're very creative. As they say, the jugad. We have a very jugad mindset. I think Indians are a smart set of people. They know where to identify opportunities, and I think we'll come out strong. I'm not too worried. I think everyone's going to be fine, and we're going to come out strong. And the only thing I want to say as I sign off is good luck to you. I think it's very, very important for people like you to be in the industry and to build the ecosystem. I cannot stress the importance of the ecosystem. You've got it right. And I'm very excitedly looking forward to the Immersion Fest, I think, this year. Uh, uh, I think it's going to happen sometime at the end of the year. Hopefully, things are settled down by then,
Right.
and social distancing norms are a bit okay, and the event industry is back and up and running. So looking forward to a really exciting and a grand Immersion Fest later this year. And to everyone listening in, I think there's a treasure trove of knowledge in Eddie's XROM podcast. The videos, I regularly tune in, Eddie, and I listen, and I think you get some great guests, who know what they're talking about, who know what's going on in the industry. So anyone who's, I think, interested in AR, VR, XR, MR, should definitely tune into you and listen to you. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Eddie.
Thank you, Adhvith. It was a pleasure talking to you. And like you said, I think we are a resilient lot, and I think we're going to come out of this extremely strong. Yeah. So thank you. You take care. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eddie. Take care. Thanks.